Good evening, everybody. As I said earlier, my name is Matt Geary. I am the Republican nominee for Commonwealth Attorney in Henrico. I'm very glad to have my good friend Shannon Taylor here, who, as you know, is the Democratic nominee for Henrico Commonwealth Attorney. There are 3 people running in this race. The 2 people most qualified to win are here. That's just true. I'd like to start off talking about Shannon. And generally, when you do political stuff, you don't talk about your opponent. And she is my opponent. But Shannon and I are good friends. We went to law school together at T.C. Williams. We spent 3 very grueling years there. We got to know each other well. We practiced law together and against one another for the last almost 16 years, since 1995. I looked at Shannon's brochure tonight. It's very nice. She is a smart, competent, hard-working lawyer who zealously represents her clients, both when she was a prosecutor and now as a defense attorney. We've done cases together as prosecutors. We've done cases together as defense attorneys. I think Shannon is a great lawyer, and I think she was a great prosecutor. Where we differ is whether or not I agree that she has the qualifications to be the elected Commonwealth attorney. The only thing that we differ on is a couple things about our experience. One, I've been the Chief Deputy Commonwealth Attorney here in Richmond for 3.5 years, and in that role, managed the day-to-day operations of an office with 41 lawyers, and 60 or so staff, budget of about $5 to $6 million. I was responsible for the day-to-day operations. That is, scheduling, training, budget, managing the attorneys, managing the staff, interagency operations between the police departments, the probation office, the clerk's offices, all those folks. And in addition to that, I prosecuted a full complement of cases, including 3 capital murders as a prosecutor. As a defense attorney, I did 8. So even though you didn't ask about the death penalty tonight, I'll tell you what I think about it, because I think it's a social justice issue, which does touch on one of the questions. I believe that the death penalty is appropriate, but very, very rarely. When I prosecuted Ricky Gray, along with Mike Herron and Learned Berry, for killing the Harvey family and the Baskerville family and Mr. Gray's wife, I thought the death penalty was appropriate for him, and I asked for it. And a jury of 12 people here in the city decided he should die for his crimes. To me, that is the ultimate situation where someone has forfeited the right to live amongst us. That was the only situation in my 3.5 years that I thought it was appropriate to ask other citizens to put someone to death. As a defense attorney, I was fortunate, and my clients were as well, in those 8 cases that no one received the death penalty. So when we were asked by the newspaper or by citizens, what's your position on the death penalty? I have a little different perspective than most people, because I've actually asked a jury to take someone's life and have that jury say yes. And so next year, I'll be at Sussex when Ricky Gray draws his last breath. And I feel it's appropriate to be there because I'm one of the ones that asked that he receive that penalty. As the Commonwealth's attorney in Henrico, next August, I would be responsible for prosecuting Gregory Nelson, who was alleged to have killed his pregnant girlfriend last year at the Chipotle in western Henrico. I'm the only candidate that's qualified to prosecute that case, because I'm the only candidate that's been involved in 11 capital murders. And that's not to take away anything from Shannon, because she has prosecuted murder cases. In fact, we prosecuted the same person for 2 different murders and got him a total of probably 90 years, I think. But she hasn't done a capital case, and I think would agree with that. The 3rd candidate hadn't even tried a jury trial. So again, he's not a candidate. In terms of the questions, let me get to that. On immigration, I probably differ from mainstream Republicans, and I'm not a mainstream Republican. If you guys have been watching TV or the news, you know that every single elected Republican in the area is opposed to me. And in fact, the gift they got for doing that was they all got kicked out of the Republican Party Friday. Every last one of them. I'm not happy about that, because I am a Republican. I believe in small government, low taxes, and less regulation. But I also believe in a lot of the issues that you all do too. And so for that reason, I would probably suggest to you I'm not a mainstream Republican. In terms of immigration, I don't like aggressive stances against immigration, like the ones in Prince William or in Arizona. I know that there are people here that are struggling to survive every single day. Some of them are here legally, some of them are here illegally. I think we ought to have a common sense policy that helps people become citizens. When you help somebody, when you give them a hand up, they're going to pay taxes, and they're going to get driver's licenses, and they're going to have insurance. They're going to make sure their kids go to school, and that they go to the hospital, they go to the doctor. They're going to take better care of themselves, because they're not going to be scared of the police. They're not going to be scared to go to the doctor. They're not going to be scared of other citizens. They're not going to be worried about the white van pulling up at their work site and hauling them off for their family never to see them again. We can use common sense in the United States. It doesn't have to always be, you're right, you're wrong. We can actually have conversations and sometimes compromise and come to some agreement that's in the middle. And on immigration, that's where I am. I talked a little bit about social justice. In terms of justice from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, it's a broader perspective. As Shannon alluded to or talked about in her opening remarks, the Commonwealth's Attorney does have a role in deciding what cases are prosecuted. Now, we usually come second because the police make a lot of arrests without talking to us. So then we make a decision about whether to continue the prosecution. But we also have a role in deciding what cases should be brought ourselves. To do that, you have to have a great relationship with your police department, your local, your state, and your federal partners. If you don't have that, things will happen that should not. Sometimes you can undo them, but not always. Right now, the main reason that I ran for Commonwealth's Attorney is that there is not a good relationship between that office and the police. They are not meshed together the way they need to be. And in the city, when I was here, we had a great partnership with every single law enforcement agency, and that's key. That allows you to then exercise the discretion you have as a prosecutor, as Shannon said, to make fair decisions. Right now in Henrico, we have cookie-cutter justice. Somebody says, we treat everybody the same. Well, you know what? You shouldn't treat everybody the same, because everybody's circumstances are different. Every factual scenario in every criminal case is different. That's why, as the Commonwealth's Attorney, you're given discretion to make the tough decisions. We shouldn't be afraid to treat people differently, as long as we're treating them fairly. In terms of anti-discrimination bills, this is a hot button, and I have a little more experience on this because I worked as counsel in the House Courts of Justice Committee for several years, back in the early 2000s. And I see Claire back there. Claire and I worked together for several years on multiple issues. Sometimes we agreed, sometimes we disagreed. We always fought fairly, I think. She usually won, except in House Courts where the conservative Republicans ran the show. But what I found was that when you start picking out certain classes of people to protect above others, these bills turn into what Dave Albo and others who was in the House and still is would call a Christmas tree bill. When you protect a police officer with an extra crime, then you got to include firefighters and EMS workers and teachers. And then where does it go from there? It becomes 25 different groups. And all of a sudden, everybody's being treated the same again. Or there are these special categories. As a prosecutor, if someone is targeted because of their race, or their gender, or their sexual orientation, then as a prosecutor, I have the discretion to make sure that that person is prosecuted more harshly because they targeted somebody based on that scenario. I don't personally feel that the law needs to say, if you assault someone who is gay, you go to jail for 6 months. If I'm the prosecutor and somebody's assaulted because of the color of their skin, or their gender, or their sexual orientation, then I might, on my own, feel it's entirely appropriate for that person to go to jail for 6 months or a year. And that's the discretion that we have. Every time the General Assembly makes a policy that says it has to be this, they take away our discretion. I would prefer to have the discretion, and if you have the confidence in me, you'll know that I'll use it appropriately. So as long as you have a competent prosecutor with experience and the ability to use their discretion wisely, you don't have to have policies that carve out certain groups. As long as you know and you're confident that I will treat everybody as a victim, the way that they should be treated, which again is not treating everybody the same. Because if someone is targeted because of their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, they should be treated differently. And they would be under my administration. They were in the city when that sort of thing happened. Shannon and I both agree on the value of diversity in an office. The thing that I love the most about the Commonwealth Attorney's Office in the city was that we were the most diverse office, and still is, the most diverse office in Virginia. There is a benefit to having people from different backgrounds. There is a benefit to having men and women, to having people with different skin color, to having people with different nationalities, different sexual orientations. Everybody brings their own life experiences to the table. And it's just, overall, a better office when it's that situation. Nobody can force it. And Shannon made the comment the other night in Lakeside about the Henrico office. Henrico's office is the opposite of diverse right now. The opposite. That's not good for anybody. That Commonwealth Attorney's Office does not reflect Henrico County. I grew up in Verina. the first majority-minority district now in Henrico County. Why aren't there more African Americans in that office? I don't want to hear it's because there aren't people that are qualified, because that's not true. We had plenty of qualified African Americans in the city, men and women. That's not the answer. The answer is you interview the best people, and the best people are all you people, everybody. It doesn't matter about your race, your gender, or your sexual orientation. I want to hire the best lawyers. I want to hire the best prosecutors, period. In terms of bullying, I got 5 kids. They've gone through the Henrico County schools. I know about bullying. I took my 12-year-old last week to a presentation at his middle school at Pocahontas on cyberbullying, which is a new thing. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, our kids are hearing about it. Our kids, some of them, are being taken advantage of online by predators, which is something that I would prosecute vigorously, of course, but by their friends. We've seen, all of us in here have seen situations where a child has been bullied so bad online that they have killed themselves. And sometimes it's parents doing it, for God's sakes. So as a parent, you have to be aware of everything your kids are doing. Not just in school, not just at the bus stop, not just at the ball field, but online too. I can assure you, with 5 children, that bullying is a very important topic for me. Something I pay a great deal of attention to and would continue to. The last question about supporting the automatic restoration of rights, I don't think you're going to find many Republicans that say this. I absolutely think anybody who's a nonviolent felon ought to get their rights back. Automatically. Automatically. I will say this. I'm not supposed to talk nice about Democrats. I've already talked nice about this one. And I like a lot of these ones over. Actually, all of them here. As a matter of fact, I asked Bevel if I could put a sign in my yard, but since I live in the county, no. And I agree. Joe Morrissey has been working tirelessly on this issue. He's doing a great job. But I would also give equal credit to Governor McDonald. He has actually granted more restoration than Tim Kaine or Mark Warner at this point in his administration. He's working hard and he gets it because it's a fairness issue. I hear all the time, well, some of the people or a large number of the people that you're restoring rights to are going to vote for Democrats. Well, not necessarily. They might. But if you're a good candidate and you're saying the right things and doing the right things, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or a Tea Party. And I see my time is up. But I do support the automatic restoration. I'd like to see it happen. As Commonwealth's attorney, I don't have a role in that other than telling people I think it's a great idea. Thank you all very much for your time.